The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hooray for Hollywood, where stars are living large, in mansions with their servants and their credit cards in charge, with fame that's fleeting, but the egos never change, where everyone's a genius, except the ones who really arrange. Hooray for Hollywood, where the scandals always sell, where every whispered secret is a new tabloid's tell. Oh, how we adore the endless red carpet galore. Hooray for Hollywood, where less is always more.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Radulich Broadcasting Network proudly brings to you Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host. He's here to tell you how he got to Memphis. From the room where the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo, Robert Winfrey.
I feel like I should know that reference, but I don't.
How I Got to Memphis is a song, and I've been obsessed with it because I just finished watching season 3 of The Newsroom for Thursday. Jeff Daniels and the guy playing Jim sing it with the in-character grandchildren of Charlie, who is Sam Waterston, and they sing it at his wake. It's sort of like a bonding moment. The room where the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo, that is from a poem that I read in high school.
Huh.
When we were learning about stream of consciousness, it's a line.
Okay.
It's like the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, I think it is.
Well, I was introduced to stream of consciousness writing, not via poetry.
Mm-hmm.
My teacher, my AP literature teacher, slapped down Hemingway and said, read The Old Man and the Sea and understand how the sentence structure works. And then that was followed shortly by his counterpoint, Faulkner, who does a lot of stream of consciousness.
Yeah,
But Hemingway is short, punchy sentences, and Faulkner is big, flowery language.
Right. I just remember reading about that poem when I was in AP literature in 10th grade, and that line always sung out to me. Now, I thought the line was singing songs of Michelangelo, but it's not. There's another line about mermaids singing, and in my brain I transposed them.
Yeah.
The line is let's do it again. The line is from the room where the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. And that line, and although a lot of the poem is nonsense, that line is repeated throughout the poem. So I wanted to do both. All night I've been chasing Erica around the house, pinching a button, going, "Tell me when you got to Memphis." And she's just like, "I watched the Gilmore Girls. Leave me alone, Masher. This man's annoying me."
There is an art to nonsense that is so shockingly structured when you know what you're doing with it.
There's an art to nonsense that's going to be, written on the epitaph of the Radulich Broadcasting Network.
Well, I mean that. Like, the difference between bad nonsense and good nonsense is, in fact, a weird structure that you never notice with good nonsense because it's good.
Okay. There are people in the chat. I have them up here. There's this fella here. He says, "Hello, guys. What's up?" "Hello. I hope you get to Memphis." And Ronnie, "I intend to leave you in Memphis bound and gagged." Now then. Memphis.
Ronnie still thinks you're lying about, cattle mutilation and
cattle decapitation.
Dying fetus, cattle decapitation, dying fetus.
Yes.
All those bands.
I saw those bands live at the BB King's
in
Blues
Memphis.
Bar in New York. In Memphis, yes. That's how I got to Memphis, you see. I followed the decapitated cattle. Robert, what are we talking about?
That tracks so much more than you might think. Well, tonight, everyone, in spite of our nonsense, we are going to structure it around Steven Spielberg's return to the big screen after a little bit. It's been a minute. The last thing he did was West Side Story, right?
The last Spielberg.
Yeah, the most
No, the
recent one apart from
Fablemans.
this. Hmm?
The Fablemans.
Okay, for some reason in my head that was before West Side Story, not after. But okay, so yeah,
Nope.
Fablemans.
West Side Story is 2021. Fablemans is 2022, and then now Disclosure Day.
Okay, so after the Fablemans, Steven Spielberg is back and he's brought us Disclosure Day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Disclosure Day is a 2026 American science fiction thriller film directed and produced by America's favorite Jew, Steven Spielberg, from a screenplay by David Koepp, based on a story by Spielberg. The film stars an ensemble cast including Emily Blunt in her Minnie Mouse voice, Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth.
1 second, Mark, if I may, because Ronnie just said something I need to respond before he bows out, if possible. If you're still here, Ronnie, Spielberg's claim that this movie will make you question your faith only in the value of the cinema, not in any sort of like religious sense.
Okie dokie. And Colman Domingo. Robert, this
Mark?
would normally be the time where we would have a pre-plot synopsis gab about Spielberg, about what he meant to us. When did you come to Spielberg? When did I come to Spielberg? When did we both come to Spielberg simultaneously? However, I don't want to do
Please don't
that.
be weird about Steven Spielberg like that.
Okay, good. I have no faith in cinema.
You'll be fine then, Ronnie. Don't worry about
And he
it.
calls us cynics. Something that I would rather talk about instead, because Spielberg really just deserves his own podcast, and we could spend 2 hours talking about Spielberg across 3 films, across 1 film. But
you and I really do need to sit down and do a director focus on him one of these days. It's going to be like a 5-hour podcast. We need to block out a whole day.
Yeah. So that's why I don't want to talk about it. I do want to talk about this because this film, it's a central question about this movie. And it was something I thought about as soon as I left the theater and my children asked me. They said, Father. They called me Father. They said, Father, what did you think of this movie? And I immediately began to think about when this country had enough discretionary time to consider matters of the celestial. And when I finally answered them, it was several hours later and they had gone home. But
you called and woke them up in the middle of the night.
I
know the answer to your question.
They were with their mother. They were like, stop it. We're trying to go to sleep. No, I was thinking about this because, early 20th century, we are, crossing over from the 1800s. We're dealing with World Wars I and II. We're dealing with the Roaring '20s, the Great Depression. Heady times, Robert Winfrey. A lot of stuff was going on. People didn't have time to really consider, are we alone in the universe? And, some did, but not many. Many were just trying to figure out how to get through their day and keep their families fed and safe. And then, the war ends, the second one, that is. The space race begins in earnest. We put a man on the moon. We put satellites in the air. And we have time to start considering aliens. And you can track our interest in whether or not we're alone in the world by the culture that it produces. And I thought about that because, I wonder how many times throughout the course of humanity, from, the Neanderthals to now, has man looked up in the sky and thought, aliens? And how much of that
allegedly they built the pyramid, so there's a period of time when it was
right here in front of us. So I'm going to throw it over to you and stop pontificating. But this movie did make me think about that. Like, how many times throughout the course of human history have people really considered and been fascinated with the concept of aliens? And how many times was the world such a wretched place, such a hard place to live, such a place that the vast majority of us are so put upon that we don't have time to consider aliens, nor would we be wondered by it. Your thoughts?
I have a slightly odd perspective on this.
You? Oh my God, that's how you got to Memphis.
Never actually been to Memphis.
I hear there's some black on black crime over there.
I assume that's everywhere.
Go on, sir.
Much like anywhere you have 2 people of the same race, you will get that race on that race crime because humanity. lest I be accused of the casual racism, to go with Mark's casual misogyny. The two of us make one problematic person. But when it comes to like the ability of and like the reality of man looking up at the sky and wondering, is there anything else out there? There's been long periods of humanity when I think I think that's an old tradition amongst people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's like ancient Egypt, and I mean, like, bear in mind, people think ancient Egypt is like, oh, Cleopatra, right? Now, Cleopatra was closer to the iPhone than she was to the building of the pyramids. Like, when we're talking ancient Egypt, I mean like ancient Egypt. There's discussion of astronomy in ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
Like, we have references to it.
Right.
In fact, a bunch of places talk about Abraham being an astronomer, which I don't find shocking in the least for a number of reasons. So that's always kind of been there. It's there is deep within the human spirit, across all cultures, across all of life on this planet, across all human life on this planet. There is the yearning for what is out there. There is a part of us fundamentally
Mm-hmm.
that is filled, is empty, and will be, and is filled by not just like the sort of generally aspirational, but by the transcendent.
Other than the obvious reason I brought this up, because it deals directly with what the movie is dealing with, I started thinking about Steven Spielberg. I don't want to put the man down. The man has given us a king's ransom full of great movies.
He has given us some of the very best.
And I don't think this movie is terrible, but we'll get to that. I've been thinking a lot about the boomers, mostly negative, but
I can't imagine why.
But I think about Steven Spielberg, I think about boomers, and I think about George Lucas, and all of the those 70s contemporary filmmakers. They all kind of came about at the time of the space race,
Okay.
where the most exciting thing in the world was anything associated with aliens, space, technology.
The final frontier. It is. I don't say that glibly to be like just make a silly Star Trek reference. I mean,
Right.
the same spirit that animated us to board wooden sailing ships, big ones, but driven by wind and current, and cross the wild oceans of this planet, is the same animating spirit that like makes us look at the stars and go, but what's out there? Like,
So
that's a real thing.
So he goes on to make Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T., based on the culture he grew up in and the things that excited him as a young person. And no one takes that away from him, and I'm certainly not going to do that now. But he also then becomes the great Steven Spielberg, and the great Steven Spielberg does not walk amongst the hoi polloi. So I think part of what informs this movie is this guy still carries that spirit of his youth with the distance of not knowing how the rest of us are doing. Now, maybe that's projection on my part. And I haven't talked to the guy. I haven't done any research on this. A lot of this conversation, I figured, let me do this in the opposite order I normally do this in. Let me just have the conversation first, and then I can have Fancy fill in the blanks for me. But I thought about that a lot because as a movie reviewer, I'm gonna kick this movie a few times. But as a social worker and mental
To the
health
extent that we
worker.
are cultural critics.
That too. I have to ask a lot of questions about the motivations of Steven Spielberg and what informed this movie, and I have to be fair. So for him, he's not worried about, his financial future. He's not worried about the grand effects of the oligarchs. He's not tremendously worried about what's going on in Washington. I mean, he may speak about it at parties and say, "Damn those MAGA people." I'm sure he's one of those guys. But I don't think he's worried month to month if he's going to make rent. And so he still has time to consider and be awed by the possibility of aliens. There are people today. I saw a girl on TikTok that said at this point, after working 60 hours a week, an alien abduction would be a vacation. Like there would be people who right now would walk outside. It'd be like Independence Day. They just walk outside. They'd see the lights overhead and be like, "Here, I'm right here. I'll take either one, abduction or destruction." And you know, and I kind of hate that for Spielberg because here he is going, "Doesn't everyone still love aliens?" And most of us are going, "Eh." And
Well, there's
and part of that is because at the time he makes those movies, the best we're gonna do is like Plan 9 from Outer Space. Like the the culture of movies and the style and the ability of movies up to the point that he makes his, the bar is low. It just is. Then he comes along. Roland Emmerich comes along. What do you call it? Actual Star Trek guy.
Gene Roddenberry.
Thank you. Gene Roddenberry comes along. Lucas comes along. And suddenly we have a million movies that deal with aliens and deal with them well and ask really interesting questions. So much to the point that all these years later, I don't think anyone cares anymore.
Well, there's two other things going on as far as like how do you sell an alien movie these days?
Mm-hmm.
The actual Alien franchise is kind of dead, which is never a good sign for people's
As is its
interest.
sister Predator.
Yeah, and we have reviewed all those recent entries.
Yep.
Mark got into a fist fight about Alien Earth because he knew how much it sucked.
I don't like to beat Jesse. Alexis is fine, but I don't like to beat Jesse.
You, the first time in so many years, you felt guilt. It was so wonderful to watch that in your face. Like, no, I have to kick Jesse, but I love Jesse. Jesse, don't make me do this. Why are you making me?
It was like I was Michael and he was Snoop, and he just looked at me and he said, "How my hair, girl?" So I shot him in the face.
Little bit, yeah. So there's a couple of things going on here. One, let's be honest. The government like straight up declassified a bunch of stuff related to this, and we all kind of went, "Oh, they probably are real," and then went on with our lives.
Yeah.
Like that.
Hang on, before this continues, you have to know that in like the 100 years that have passed, we have like deep space telescopes and all kinds of technology that tells us what's out there. There'll always be some degree of mystery. The universe is rather large. But to the degree that we're like, what's out there? We kind of know what's out there now.
Well, there's, if I may, in defense of that, there's two kind of things that go on in the discussion of, well, if there's life out there, why hasn't it reached us? Well, there's a handful of things. One is just the distance.
Yeah.
Like our closest celestial body is the moon, and that thing's like what, 200,000 miles away?
Yeah.
You think it's close because we've been there. Like, oh, it's there. Like, no, you travel at almost maximum velocity for a week to get there. Like, it's way out there. And then you start thinking, like, okay, so how close is everything else? Boy, distances in space are something that the human mind does not readily understand.
If I may.
Hang on. I'm going to make another point here.
Well, I want to address that, and I can't if you go on to 50 more points.
Sorry.
In the science of Star Wars, it talks about the Luke and Leia twin problem. And that is, if Luke stays on planet for X amount of years, he becomes X amount of years old. But if Leia goes away for that same amount of distance, she doesn't age nearly. It's I can't remember like how the math works, but
It's
two
relative.
different ages. Yeah, it's two different ages because of because of the length of time it takes to travel in space versus the amount of times you revolve around the sun.
Well, that's a method. That's just a method of tracking time rather than like
Mhm.
passage of time, which is a weird distinction that we have to make in this case. But look, Star Wars. I'm just convinced of the following: like the Star Wars universe does not have relativity.
No, of course not. He couldn't. He couldn't. No, that's the point. Like a lot of the stuff that we dream about. Oh, someday we'll have the Star Trek Federation. Someday we'll have Star Wars. No, we won't, because that's not how physics works.
And by the time you generate the technology to fix the problems of physics that we'd be overcoming, the actual like impulse to go somewhere and do something is different because we'll have done so much here to have arrived at that point. Anyway,
You know which movie actually handled that really well? Lightyear. But go on.
Lightyear moderately. I mean, Interstellar remains the gold standard for actually like tackling the physics of this stuff.
I haven't seen it. Continue.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of the ones I haven't seen.
Huh. Fair enough. Yeah, it handles this well, is the point there. Anyway. So that is like overcoming the distance is a real problem. Second, like, okay, well, couldn't they communicate? The fastest communication we have is light. Like radio waves, guys, that's a frequency of light. It's not the visible spectrum of light, but it's light. If you're curious what that means that when we talk to people in the shuttle going around the moon, there's a delay because light is not instantaneous. It's the fastest thing we know of, but distance still matters. If you were to try to talk to someone on Mars, there's a giant delay because of how long it takes light to get from the Earth to Mars. Now, if you want to try and talk radio waves, which again is a light frequency, trying to talk to another planet in our solar system is a virtual impossibility. Trying to talk to another planet outside of that, out there, like, no.
So the point that you're making.
Point that I'm making is if there is an advanced civilization out there that is spacefaring, the theory that I've heard best espoused to this is there's actually another technological leap for communication that is faster than light that we have not reached yet. That another species out there would have advanced beyond and would no longer use to recognize that that's what we're sending out, because it'd be a little bit like, well, why don't we talk with this? Why doesn't this other species talk to us that's lower on the evolutionary chain, and they're trying to communicate with smoke signals? And we're like, hey, look, there's a fire. Like, we don't, it's so far beyond what we have that the pattern recognition isn't there. Anyway, so that's one of the theories out there about that. So point being, like, the animating spirit behind Are We Alone in the Universe, that's kind of gone from the zeitgeist largely because it's been thought experimented to death.
Yeah.
We kind of do figure at this point that, yeah, there's probably something out there, but ... consider all that, and consider not the like deep philosophical implications of that. Consider like they're so far removed from us that the odds of us ever interacting are so infinitesimally small that they may as well not exist. And we all shrug.
The movie, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but the movie makes a thematic leap, I guess, that religious belief is so fundamentally held by the vast majority of us that if you confront it with an alien incursion, it would flip everything that we know and love on its head. And we're well beyond that at this point. People are easily holding two beliefs in their hand: their belief in Judeo-Christian, take two, Judeo-Christian religion and philosophy, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, and whatever else I
Whatever.
left out. Well,
A
we're in a
lot, but yes.
multicultural world. I want to make sure I got everybody. So my point is, you can have somebody who very much is a follower of the faith, reads their Bible, but is also willing to accept aliens. And this movie doesn't think that that's the case.
I don't want to speak for anyone else here, so allow me to speak for myself. There's a weird quirk of my particular religion where, yeah, we actually do fundamentally believe in life outside this planet. It doesn't come up all that often because it's largely immaterial as a general, like, we don't talk about it because who cares for the most part. Like, what matters is, God, you're gonna get me on a religious kick, and I really don't want to do that because it's alienating
Well, learn
to the
to
audience.
self-edit. We've only been doing this 15 years.
And you and I have never had like the serious religion conversation on air, so I'm gonna again, I just, not that it wouldn't be interesting, but I bring it up in this case because, like you said, it's a fundamental conceit of the film that, like, there's a bunch of people who, if given concrete evidence of extraterrestrial existence, would immediately go, well, clearly all religion is hooey. And I mean, you have Neil deGrasse Tyson, who has a tweet on repeat every like 4 years to say, if I encountered alien life, I'd wonder if they came from a planet that also denied science. And I have, at this point, I am forced to just state the powerfully obvious. Every group of people on Earth has, up until very recently, had a religious worldview. Why do we think another species on another planet wouldn't have religion? I mean that with all sincerity. Like, it's because a bunch of like pseudo intellectuals decided that the height of progress is moving beyond the need for a belief in the transcendent, which is such crap.
So I brought all, for the audience sake, I brought all of this up because in order to truly appreciate this film, you have to go along with a couple of different things. One, that the belief in aliens is still a wowing experience. Two, that and the existence of aliens would make you challenge your own beliefs, whatever they are. Three, that this is still interesting. Four, that even though it's interesting, we still have to do action stuff. And
five, that a conventional television broadcast could actually reach a number of people.
Sure.
More on that later.
My point is, and I'm going to kick you into the plot synopsis after this, this movie is about 50 years too late.
That's a bit of a stretch. I can tell you, when I get to my part of the critique, I can tell you exactly when this movie wanted to be.
Sorry, 40. Because if he releases this in 88 or 89, it does blockbusters, and we talk about it today with the same kind of reverence we talk about E.T. If you do it in the 90s, it's a little past. You could still drink it, but it's a little past its sell-by date.
I think this really does desperately want to be late 90s.
Yeah,
for
like
for two reasons.
I think competing with like Independence Day. Hang on. After 2000, this movie starts to become a relic, and by this point, it's quaint, and that's being nice about it.
You cannot. I hate to say you can't do this movie, but like fundamentally, what the world this movie wants to speak to is pre 9/11.
Sure.
The reason I say it wants the 90s is the same reason that like the X-Files worked in that time period. There's just enough distrust of governmental institutions for that to fly. There's just enough curiosity about everything, and there's just enough monoculture remaining for it still to speak.
Yeah, I didn't touch on the amount of controversies and conspiracies that have been unearthed by this time. But by 2026, we now know everything we need to know about the Kennedy assassination, the Cuban Missile Crisis, crack in Los Angeles, and any other conspiracies you guys want to name. The moon landing. Hello, Gavin.
No landing happened. Let's be fair.
My point is, like, we're kind of running out of stuff here. And
the modern conspiratorial landscape. This is why the Ryan Coogler's X-Files reboot is probably going to fall flat on its face. By the way.
Oh Jesus, he's doing an X-Files.
Were you not aware of this?
No.
Yeah, there's a new X-Files TV series in the work. Coogler's kind of godfathering it because it's like his mom's favorite show, which I respect. And Coogler is a mostly interesting filmmaker. I don't know how he's going to do like shepherding television, but because that's a different skill set. But I'm not going to begrudge him the attempt. I'm
going to concede because I don't want to go off on a tangent.
Okay. My point here is like the X-Files conspiratorial landscape is largely what the show was based. Like, watch the show, you'll get it. It's government conspiracies, extraterrestrial life, cryptids, and monsters. Like, that's the kind of stuff that in the 90s ran rampant because for a lot of reasons. The modern conspiratorial landscape is wildly different than what it was then.
So now we're going to tell you about the movie just as soon as Robert tells you what happens in it and spoils it for everyone, which is what we do on this show. But everyone needs to understand that there's no way to watch this movie without having the disc. I mean, you can, but you could also just be a donut. There's no way to intellectually engage with this movie without having the conversation that we just had. That's why we had it. Robert?
So, Disclosure Day follows a fellow who steals all the evidence of all the wrongdoings about extraterrestrial life on Earth. He swipes it from the facility, and he has it, and he rescues his girlfriend, and they get attacked by Colin Firth, who is the head of this. It's government adjacent. It's technically private enterprise, which I think was Spielberg's only conceit to the modern conspiratorial landscape. It's technically private enterprise that is adjacent to and attached to major government institutions, but mostly the military industrial complex.
Other than BlackRock, what was Dick Cheney involved with? That was on everyone's tongue for a while. Halliburton.
Yeah.
Okay. They're being chased by Halliburton. Go.
Might as well.
Yeah.
So this is why they're chased around by a couple of FBI agents potentially, and a lot of people driving black SUVs and black Dodge Challengers or Chargers. Like that's what we got here. So he's stolen all this evidence at the behest of the dude from The Running Man. Not that dude from The Running Man, the other
Colman Domingo. Isn't it like, boy, him and Keith David are like everything now. And I'm starting to think that it's actually the same guy and one's just a clone of the other.
They're pulling a Prestige. So he's doing this at the behest of Colman Domingo, who has a plan. And our first protagonist goes, I've got all this. I should just dump it online. And Colman Domingo goes, no, the movie has to happen. So he gets his girlfriend and he's on the run and he's being told, like, yeah, kind of make your way towards this location. Be careful because if you think wrong, they have the thought police, and Colin Firth can use alien technology to psychologically project himself into people, and it's a whole thing. At the same time, we have Emily Blunt, who's hanging out with Wyatt Russell, who is done very dirty in this movie.
Who plays Wyatt Russell now in every movie.
I'll yell about it. And she is a weather girl for the local news station, the local news station in Kansas City. I assume Kansas City, Missouri, but don't quote me. Anyway, she is the weather girl there, and she's got a degree in journalism and is flighty and a little bit weird. She gets approached by a cardinal, not a Catholic. The bird. It's an important distinction for this movie because it could go.
I kind of wish the bird had flown in and turned into the Pope.
The Pope's from Chicago. He wouldn't be caught dead in Kansas City. Bird shows up and activates her latent psychic powers. And she then starts being able to look at people and know things about them. She used this to get out of a speeding ticket, which tracks. She then starts speaking the alien dialect on air. This gets out on social media, where our resistance group finds it. And Colman Domingo goes, "Yay! The passenger has awoken." And John has a long mustache. And he sends the video to our first protagonist, who goes, "What's everybody freaking out about? She's just speaking English." And Colman Domingo goes, "This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them." Laugh for my Phantom Menace reference, please. Thank you. And he goes, "Okay, we have to get the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper together." Okay, now you're patronizing me.
That one legitimately made me laugh.
Oh, that was just such a weird laugh. I thought, okay, now he's doing a gimmick.
No, sometimes it just laughs good. I laugh like a dope.
If this movie were made in the 90s, it would, in fact, star Rick Moranis and Sigourney Weaver, for the record.
God, I hope. And it would have been a much better movie.
So she starts driving. She is being guided by the power of plot, basically, and intuition, around to get towards our first dude. Eventually, they get together, and her powers start manifesting where she, like, projects someone onto her own face. So if you look at her, you don't see her, you see this person. Preferably someone you've lost and loved deeply. And she then speaks truths to you that disarm you emotionally. This is the most feminist power trip in the world, by the way. "I will say to you that your father loved you, and you will fall at my feet and let me do whatever I want." That's what she does. And they escape. They get up with Colman Domingo. They take her through a trauma recreation, because this is a therapy speak movie, so that she can remember all the hidden power that she had when she and the other dude were abducted by aliens. And he understands math implicitly, and she understands us implicitly, and together they are the Wonder Twins. I don't know. And their goal is to disclose all of this to the world, because the evil organization has found a few live aliens and done really bad things to them, because Colin Firth is evil. Would be nice if he acted evil in the movie, but allegedly he's evil. This all comes to a head now that she has the power, and now that they both have their full powers awakened. They go to the local news station, where Jeff Daniels is like, "The news matters." He's got a sign up on the outside, big cardboard sign.
He's just running around with a guitar, hitting people with it, going, "That's how I got to Memphis."
And they get to the news station. They do a big broadcast where she says this is what's happening. By the way, this is all set against the backdrop of, like, the week before World War III is going to kick off in Korea. Because the North Koreans are menacing the South Koreans, and the Russians are involved. Not the Chinese. We can't have the Chinese be involved, or the movie can't open in China. So it's the Russians. I hate this movie. Just so nakedly pathetic about that. So World War III is about to kick off, and then this one news station in Kansas City starts going, "We have proof there are aliens." And they have proof they're aliens. So naturally, every terrestrial broadcast in the world picks this up. Slightly believable. Everyone on the world, even those in the trenches preparing to go over the wire, pull out their cell phones and go, "I must watch this, because the news is important, Mark."
Can't we just do the news?
And there's all the evidence put forth, and then Colman Domingo has had traveling around in a box truck an honest-to-God alien who they wheel out on camera and delivers the profound message of "listen." That's it. That's the movie.
All right. Now, let me tell you about this movie devoid of context. Let me start with Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt is one of the best actresses going today in most major motion pictures.
Absolutely.
It's unfortunate what happened to her here tonight. First of all, never let her do another American accent again. She sounded like Minnie Mouse through most of this movie. No, I
That's a
understand.
that's a bit much.
Now I understand they were kind of her character was kind of a dipstick, but between her being a dingbat and then the Minnie Mouse voice, and then she's this all important character. I had a hard time taking anything she said seriously. You brought up just a point of fact. You brought up the way what's his face
Wyatt Russell.
Wyatt Russell gets done dirty. You know when you're.
I
when-
mean, if you
well,
want
hang on,
that,
hang on. So
okay.
hang on. When you have an omniscient audience, an audience that knows everything that's happening in the movie that the characters don't know, it's really easy to look at what he's doing and goes, bad boyfriend. Folks, I don't know if you've had someone with Alzheimer's or dementia or having a nervous breakdown or
Schizophrenic
schizophrenia
episodes.
or schizoaffective disorder. It's fucking scary, and those people are very committed to what they believe, and they are very sick.
Yeah.
And he reacted appropriately. How the fuck would he know what's going on with her?
No. When I say he got done dirty, it's not the problem is that like the movie takes the position that he's being terrible.
Right.
And that's because again, we have an omniscient audience, like you said, when in reality he's not. And I don't think that character. This is not like I'm not stumping for Wyatt Russell as a human being. I'm stumping for this character being done very, very poorly by the writing.
Yeah.
Ask anyone in that, I'm going to come away with the same opinion.
But I think it's a small example of everything that's wrong with the writing of this movie. Is that the movie wants you to think and feel a certain way, and it's going to do everything in its power to get you to feel it and think in a certain way, even if it does not service a character or it wrecks part of the plot. Having said that, the fuck's the other character's name? Josh O'Connor. It was another actor for a while. The idiot that's in Terminator Genesis.
Sam Worthington?
No, the young guy. Jai Courtney, maybe?
Yeah. I think that's Jai Courtney, and sorry, I confused Genesis for Salvation for some reason there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Jai Courtney.
Well, there was a while Hollywood was trying to make Jai Courtney a thing.
They tried to make Jai Courtney, they tried to make a thing. Taylor Kitsch, they tried to make a thing.
And now they're doing it with this poor fella. And he is absolutely the lead's best friend. He is not good enough to lead this movie. He is not good enough to be the action hero they're trying to make him.
He was largely the kind. When I talk about like the kind of role, I mean like positioned within the narrative. Him as the priest in Knives Out is the kind of role this actor should play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, you can do comedy with it, you can do serious with it, you can do action with it, but that is the point in the sort of character hierarchy he should be occupying.
Right. So he was miscast. So between a miscast male lead actor, and a lead actress who this movie did Emily Blunt no fucking favors. And then you have our third character who you didn't even mention. That's how important she was to this movie. You have the former nun.
She doesn't matter.
Well, that's the kind of the point here, and this is part of the craft review now, isn't it? This is Eve Hewson. Who, oy vey. Just
Woody.
Dour. I've
never seen someone have less reaction to having to stab themselves in the hand.
Yeah, I was getting to that. Like, you're supposed to really feel for this character because the villain is imposing himself on her, and so that should get everyone's dander up, right? No, we can't have men, and I say this not really being sarcastic. We can't have men physically imposing themselves on women. It's wrong.
This would be psychically imposing himself, but same thing.
Yeah, tomato, and they don't let her react big enough. It for what they're trying to do, for what they're trying to make him. If you want that, then she has to go big, and she does not.
It doesn't help that Colin Firth is devoid of menace.
Yeah. So
he again, speaking of woefully miscast.
Yeah. So and that's a good third of this movie is what this guy's doing to this poor girl, and nothing. Say something nice about this movie, or I'm going to punch you in the face. There are two things. One, the train sequence is cool.
Okay.
When they're stopped at the train and they're being chased by Halliburton, and they push the car into the train, and they've got to get off the train, they got to get off the car onto the train before before another train hits it. Emily Blunt was in Jungle Cruise, and she had to do a fair bit of action. I give her a lot of
Edge of
credit.
Tomorrow. Like
Yeah,
she actually is a very believable action.
right. They put her in an appropriate, and because they made her, not action adventure woman, but a dingbat. This is the only part of the movie that got an emotional reaction out of me, which was, oh gosh, they almost killed poor Emily Blunt with a train, and it was
And
Steven
then she has a
Spielberg.
panic attack and fixes it by touching a player piano.
That's believable. It's a grounding thing.
I'm aware. Like it's just to your point about her not being action woman. Like the movie is, if I would have like dovetail onto a smart thing it did, like it treats her like the character she is supposed to be.
Yeah, she has appropriate reactions as opposed to the other female.
Well, her, and then frankly Jack O'Connell is supposed to be a cybersecurity nerd who has no problem running long distances, shoving over fully kitted out soldiers.
Yeah.
And like his character does not behave like the character the movie tells us he is. She does. And that's like her performance and the script.
So let's talk about the disclosure. If you don't got it, don't do it. If you're trying to do epic, but you just don't got it, don't make that scene as long as it is. You didn't have it. You didn't have the epic proportions you think you did. You didn't have the awe. So we got a guy here, and I'm going to address this now. I hope to hear what you guys wanted this movie to be. Sure, I'll answer you in a couple of minutes. Sign this guy.
One of the things we do when we do stuff like this is actually that we like, okay, what do we think could have helped?
So, and I guess I can actually dovetail into what he wants from this point. If everything is leading up to this disclosure, you have to do a better job of creating incidents of what this disclosure actually does. Having the news anchor shimmer, she's just quaking as she reads this. First of all, even in this fictional world, I don't believe that that's what actually happened. I think, I think if it's Megyn Kelly, she's just like, and now there's aliens, and I hope they vote Republican. It'll be something along. It would be something along those lines. Or the opposite. And they're aliens now, and and I bet they're queer. So something along those lines. Poor Megyn Kelly. Anyway, my point is,
don't make me bust out like Rachel Maddow would show up and go, "Oh, there's aliens."
Not enough lesbian aliens for my taste. See, I can make fun of her too. Megyn Kelly is more popular than she is.
Well, duh. My left nut is more popular than Rachel Maddow at this point.
Again, don't assume I'm doing I hate the Republicans thing when I'm not.
Sorry, I've been half swimming in that sentiment after the White House card the other night. So
okie dokie. I picked at the most famous, hottest, blondest anchor and competent.
What we needed to do was at the end of this movie just have a double feature with Bombshell, but change the ending of that to go along with it.
Woo! All right. Anyway, if Steven Spielberg took notes from Robert and I on how to make this movie better, I think you have to. This has to be a little less action adventure, and there has to be a little less time spent with our main characters. And you kind of have to do like an Independence Day thing where you have to move the camera around the world. Another example of this might be actually House of Dynamite, where you're kind of checking in with different areas of the world, because then you have these different places where you've got poles holding up this tent that this disclosure can impact. This movie was too small for too long. What I needed it to be was big enough for this thing to have the global impact it wanted to. They waited too long to the end to get to that point. And I think there also there was no, to my knowledge, and granted I zoned out a lot of this movie, but there didn't seem to be a lot of discussion of the implications of, and this is why I had the whole first part of the conversation that we did, because I don't think fucking Spielberg considered it. That's why it's not in the script. Of what are the implications of knowing that we have aliens today in 2026? I started off tonight's podcast the way that I did because you have to if you're going to make this kind of movie. So then he has to if he's going to make this kind of movie, and he doesn't. And that's the movie's biggest flaw. He is making a boomer alien movie well after, as we said before, about 20 minutes ago, well after the world changed so much that this movie now seems quaint and antiquated. That's a big problem I have.
This movie is thematically and with a lot of the assumptions and sort of like centralized conceits it is on the order of 30-ish years too late.
Yeah.
You could get away with this in the, like, again, the latest you could get away with this movie doing what it does is late 90s.
Right.
Like
but you could go into your craft review, because I really don't have much more to say, and we're at an hour.
Okay. I agree with you that this movie wound up being way too small. Like, if you want to do, you either have to end this movie like you don't have the budget for epic, and like they disclose, and they are talking and we can, see little bits of what's going out, but the government is bearing down on them, so you have to do the, like, is this even getting out thing? Like, if you want the structure and the focus of this movie is on a much, much smaller scale. So your finale really should be on a much, much smaller scale. It's just, again, like, we're broadcasting because broadcasting matters. Like, which is another, like, central conceit of this that I don't agree with. Like, we do a big deal about we have to broadcast it because that's trustworthy.
Yeah.
In 2026.
So, like, that's the thing. It's like, cut it at that point. Be like, all right, and 3, 2, 1, and cast.
That's the kind of thing you have to do, because going beyond that, you haven't done the groundwork.
Right. Or, like I said, go the opposite. Create enough. If you're going to introduce the concept that this is the night before World War III, then this has to impact World War III, and it doesn't.
It's just assumed. There's a central.
But you can't do that. Like, the
guy. I'm aware. Like, I'm saying.
I'm saying for the guy. The guy's like, well, what did you want it to be? Not do that. That's not good writing. You can't just do assumptions. If
there's another central problem with this, that, like you said, it's very. I don't like using the word boomer coded, but that is very much of that generation. That is, all the aliens have been in America. The American government is in on it. Fine. No one else? No one crashed into Africa and was recovered. No one crashed into Russia's huge. It was bigger when it was the Soviet Union. Nobody ever crashed there. No recovered aliens in the Kremlin.
Nothing in the water, of which the planet is made up mostly of.
There's just so much that if you want to go into, there's a conspiracy ongoing, active. Like, I don't need Colin Firth talking with the director of the FBI and the DOJ. Like, what you need is the shadowy room from the X-Files, where you've got the Russian, the Chinese guy, the South American. Like, you have people from around the world who are all concentrated here, dedicated to the cause. And yeah, some of them are government officials, some of them aren't. That's the point, like, of this kind of thing. And we don't get that. It's just this kind of like takes the scale of ET and then goes, But if a television camera saw E.T., the world at the very end.
Yeah.
And that's not believable. It's not landing emotionally because there's no context for everything else going on. You're right. Like you need that bit where like the opening act is us moving around, seeing different places and different people. Some of them can be involved in this. Like that's the other part of the problem here is one dude with one backpack has everything. I'm sorry. He's this close to having to be 16 and riding a bike, Steven Spielberg.
Honestly, they'd have done better if they just called this ET2.
If
The search for more money.
If you set this, I'm not even kidding. If you set this in the 90s and make it a kids on bike save the world story, it probably does better.
Probably.
What was attempted here just doesn't land. This needs to be bigger in the beginning to establish the stakes.
There's so little sexual chemistry between the boyfriend and the girlfriend. You could have just had them be adolescent children.
That might have put sexual chemistry between them if you hire the right teenager.
Hubba.
It's a teenager thing. So Sinus Guy chiming in. Saw it as a remake of Close Encounters. They were both journeys. The problem with the analogy there is Close Encounters actually gets the scale right. You do bounce around. You don't only follow Richard Dreyfuss. He's the main one we follow, but he's not the only one. We spend time with the government agencies.
Again, if you want to look at this sort of thing done a bit better in terms of how do you present the idea you want at the scale you need it, Independence Day. Look, I'm well aware Independence Day has its flaws, but structurally, Independence Day works a lot. Yeah. You have a lot of different characters, a lot of different locations, and so when everything goes kaflooey, you have large scale. You come out of Independence Day really feeling like the world was threatened. You don't get that from Disclosure Day.
You don't get the sense that the world was threatened or that it was saved.
Right.
It's just out of step. Like this is creatively, thematically out of step with the modern world. And that's not always a bad thing. It's a bad thing in this case because what you're trying to do, that was a sci-fi movie, and Sinus Guy, like Close Encounters is a very much science fiction movie. Here, the fictional science is very minimal, apart from it being like
it's an action adventure movie, is what this is.
Yeah,
with science ideas.
The fictional science might as well have been satellite imagery. Like, how do we track people?
So, all right. I think we've addressed this guy's concerns as best we're going to. Can you just stick strictly to your craft issues and then let's get going?
2.5 hours is way too long for this movie. So that's a big problem. I didn't love any of the performances. I don't understand why they decided that what's going to be messing with Emily Blunt's character is I'm worried I have Parkinson's. Like, if she's worried about her mental, she needed to be worried about schizophrenia, given what she's doing and what that's supposed to do to her character and her self-perception. Like, because her big breakdown at one point is like, I need to remember who I am to me, not who I am as you or anyone else. And like, you need someone then who has struggled with their identity throughout the course of the movie, and she hasn't. Apart from like the only line she does about like complaining about what she's doing that works is when she doesn't want to look at Colman Domingo because you're the guy who knows everything and I don't want to know everything right now.
This is where I would assume Steven Spielberg doesn't really know enough about schizophrenia, but he's a lot closer to like Parkinson's than not. And everybody thinks schizophrenia is crazy guy with a knife stabbing people. Let me tell you how many schizophrenics I've met in my lifetime being a mental health professional. 2. Like, I'm being facetious, but most schizophrenics, the most harm they're ever going to do is to themselves, not to other people.
schizophrenia actually correlates very poorly with violence.
Yeah. But he doesn't know that. But that's the to your point. That's what she's trying to deal with. But he doesn't know that that's what it's supposed to be. So he does the thing he does know, and that's Parkinson's. And it's not really what she's doing.
Yeah. So that's a big misalignment. Do a couple of other positive things. Spielberg still too much early. Yeah, adult onset schizophrenia is a very real thing, but that's a whole other conversation. Plus, so I'm going to address this guy. I'm going to address this guy here. If she's paranoid about becoming schizophrenic, that's what she's going to default to when things start going sideways. Whether it would have necessarily manifested at that point normally or not, that's what she's going to go to. So that's where we should be emotionally with the character.
Okay.
Anyway, Spielberg still moves a camera better than anyone.
Yeah, I was good. You started to say it, and I was thinking of like that man still knows how to swing a camera.
There's so much modern filmmaking that is just designed around bland coverage that things lose personality. And Spielberg still understands production. But what I mean by that is like he knows where things are in the shot. He knows how to move the camera around it. He knows what he wants to see. He knows what he wants to show you at any given point in time. And he knows the best way to do it. So, and that level of film craft in this is still top notch. The man still has his fastball in a lot of respects. It was also nice to see a movie lit properly, one that actually like plays with shadow and space and warmth. Like that was a breath of fresh air because so much of everything now is just washed out teals and flat lighting. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. So that was really nice. The action sequences are a little bit lackluster. I don't know why we spontaneously had O'Connell spawn a crop circle. That was an odd choice. Crop circles were much better used in signs, but are you muted?
No.
Oh, you're just lip syncing. Gotcha. You're just having a good time.
I'm just singing signs, baby.
So, again, there's several odd choices. It's too long by half. It's too small to have the big story. There's a lot of miscasting. I think Colman Domingo is well cast. Let me give the credit where it's due. I think he does a good job with his role. Colin Firth is miscast because the movie doesn't know if it wants him to be villainous or sympathetic because he vacillates between the 2 points. His henchman is a non-factor who we're supposed to be scared of at different points in time, including him leaving with all the soldiers at one point. The attempts at tackling, like, again, what does it mean to actually prove we're not alone in the universe? Steven Spielberg wanted to comment on the nature of religious belief and is just doing it very badly. I don't know if that's because I don't know what his genuine religious belief system is at the moment. But the stuff he's trying to tackle here is odd, is not handled particularly deftly, and is, of course, limited to talking about Christianity. I'm going to be honest, if you want to say which major religions would have the biggest problem with the proof of extraterrestrial existence, I think most Christians aren't going to have a problem with it.
No, that would be the Islam.
Yeah, Islam is really the one that's going to...
And I say that as not somebody who... I don't have the grudge that most of you guys do out there with our Muslim friends. But let's they're a lot further back on that particular number line than the Judeo-Christians.
Look, the real problem that the Muslims and the atheists would have with the aliens showing up is the aliens are going to show up and be Christians.
Do you have time to talk about our Lord Jesus Christ? Get back in your fucking ship.
I mean, I joke, but that is my actual position on that. Christ is Savior and Lord of all creation. That's not just Earth, literally all of it. So, yeah, they'd show up like we're going to get visited by missionaries from outer space before we. But that's what they're going to show, and then they're going to get shot by the government.
Probably.
Like that's what would happen. But
please start the grab.
And you then wheel out an actual the live alien at the end was so weird. Like, because Colman Domingo has this thing in a box truck just hanging around.
Honestly, Mars Attacks dealt with this better.
In some respects, yes. That's the only time I'll ever say that about a Tim Burton film versus a Spielberg film. So that was odd. And then, like, because we've gone this far, you're stuck in the position where, like, okay, the alien's going to speak and you're going to translate what's its big words of profundity. Listen.
Can I tell you?
It may as well have been Navi floating around as a sprite going, hey, listen.
No, you're missing subtext here. You're going to hate this. But since you keep bursting out with your religious beliefs, let me tell you about my political commentary. Again, this may be projection. Haven't done a lot of research, but I happen to know a lot of people Steven Spielberg's age and the kinds of people Steven Spielberg tends to be around. So I'm taking a wild guess here, and I think I'm on terra firma. The liberal side of the political spectrum is really aggravated with its brothers on the other side because they have good ideas. And they don't get to do their good ideas because more often than not, they don't fucking win. And you kind of have to win to get your ideas pushed. And more often than not, they don't. They don't play the game very well. And some might say, but this shouldn't be a game. Yeah, I agree. Welcome to fucking the human race in adulthood. Get over it. And I'm not picking a side here. I'm just calling it as I see it. I'm John Madden. Let's play some football. The thing about most liberals is they think, and sometimes I know they're smarter than a lot of people, and they have really, really great ideas that nobody will listen to. And that's why the word at the end was listen. Because at the end of the day, and this is probably the thing that aggravated me the most about this movie, is that this is liberal wish fulfillment.
A lot of it, yeah.
That's why the word is listen at the end, because every liberal wants to take every conservative and shake the fuck out of them. And be like, will you please listen to reason? And in some instances, they're right.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to climate change, they're mostly right. When it comes, shut up. When it comes to stem cells, they're almost all the way right. When it comes to a lot of things that are science-based, they're right. When it comes to, let's not push the entire
sorry. Wait, is Miami underwater? Because I was told reliably by Al Gore that Miami would be underwater by now.
I let you talk.
Look, I don't. I'm being facetious because I don't actually disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of things over there that, yeah, they're like, would you please listen to reason? And there's a lot of resistance to that because a lot of it has been badly articulated. And frankly, there's also, you say there's a lot of good ideas on the left, and I don't disagree. There's a lot of bad ideas because for some reason, the loudest ideas that come from over there are the ones that we all know don't work, that no one will just listen. Like,
right.
The fundamental purpose of the left-right divide is the left goes, here's ideas. And the right should go, okay, not those ones, these ones are good. And we move forward together. And it's just turned into the left going, but this idea, and the right going, no.
Right.
So often that the left has gone from some good ideas get shot down, and then all the bad ideas recirculate because for some reason we've lost the fact that these are bad ideas.
So when the Spiro Agnews of the world are screaming, but I have good ideas, I'm smart, and people like me, and the jocks of the world, the Nixons of the world, are like, no, shut up.
I mean, let's be fair. There are good ideas on the other end too, as well as very bad ones.
There are.
Let's be clear.
But we're talking about Spielberg here, and I don't have to be fair and balanced right now. I'm not Fox News.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
So my point is that an old boomer making a space movie, what is he thinking about? And not to do a fucking biopsychosocial on Steven Spielberg. It's not my place, nor would it be professionally right of me to do so. But I can make some intelligent projections. And he's going, why did anyone listen to me? Listen. I have ideas. I matter. I'm not dying. Anyway, I'll give you the last word. Word.
Listen.
I swear to God, I'm so used to you. Good motherfucker. All right.
You insisted it be one word. I figured I'd punctuate.
All righty. I think we're done. Yes?
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to say on this, I suppose, this is not the worst movie that Steven Spielberg's ever made. But he's not gone full Ridley Scott, but that's the direct, or he's not gone full Scorsese or Ridley Scott, but he's trending that way.
Yeah, I would not mind if he retired gracefully, unlike his predecessors, or his contemporaries, rather. All right, with that said, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
Ah, yes, now. On a budget of 115 million reasonable dollars.
Shockingly reasonable.
This thing has made I lost it. This thing has made $94 million. And the box office reads on the Wikipedia page, as of June 15th, 2026, Disclosure Day has grossed $44.5 million in the US and Canada and $49.5 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $94 million. May 29th, 2026, prior to the film's release in the US and Canada, Box Office Pro projected an opening weekend of 40 to 50 million. On June 10th, Deadline Hollywood projected an opening weekend of around 65 million worldwide. A report by Puck estimated that Disclosure Day will need to cross 300 million to break even at the box office.
You know, it's a sad day when, like, that is reasonable. And it's not going to get there, but that's actually not an unreasonable.
Yes, it's not like these other asshole movies. 700 million to break even with the Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's not like Mandalorian and Grogu, where like we're gambling on 600 to 700 million before we start seeing profit.
The film made 6.5 million during Thursday previews in the U.S. It ended up debuting number one with 44 million from 3,824 screens at the domestic box office, with an additional 48.9 million from 73 overseas markets, for a worldwide total opening of 93 million. When analyzing the film's box office performance, David A. Gross from the box office newsletter Franchise noted that international territories could help the lifetime gross of the film in the long run, stating, "Sci-fi thrillers do well abroad. I can see Russia from my house. These are the visual stories that everyone understands. I sort glass. That's my job. Red ones over here, green ones over me." 60% of moviegoers were 35 or older, with 48% of the gross coming from premium large formats. It also has the highest opening for a Spielberg and Amblin Entertainment original title not based on any previous IP. Are we solving for inflation there? Because I don't think we are.
No, there is no way that's adjusted for inflation.
Yeah. Disclosure Day was the number one movie of the weekend. Obsession rose from 4 to 2. The word of mouth is getting out about that. People are rushing to the theater to see it. Scary Movie dropped from 1 to 3. Backrooms 3 to 4.
Scary Movie is what, 3 weeks out now?
2.
Yeah, 4% drop for Scary Movie?
Correct. 73.9%, yes.
I'll round up there.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the Wayans Brothers comedies as a general rule.
Flames on the side of your face.
I think the saving grace for Scary Movie is they shot that for like
$150.
Yeah. The change in Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's pockets.
Masters of the Universe dropped from 2 to 5. Yikes.
And that movie is boom. Bomb.
DED dead. 69.7% drop, so almost as much as The Mandalorian and Grogu when it had its second week drop. let me say this again. If Amazon, MGM, Pornhub is committed to rehabilitating this IP. This movie don't matter. It would have been nice if it made money, but it don't matter because they can afford to piss away a box office in the attempt to rehabilitate this product, which is something I believe in. I think there's room in this world for a Masters of the Universe series of movies.
Probably.
So if MGM's got money to burn, and Amazon MGM's got money to burn, and they do, I think what I'm hearing, like there are some that's like just based, they're not doing any kind of interpretation. They're just looking at raw numbers and going, "There's no fucking way this gets greenlit for a sequel." But I'm telling you that I think Amazon MGM is currently in the process of trying to rehabilitate all of their broken toys. This is one of them. So they're willing. So if it loses money the first go around, fine. If by the third one of these it's still not making money, that may be a different story.
Well,
but I think for right now,
hang
they're
on.
willing to wait.
My hunch is if the second one does worse than this, that'll be the end of it.
If the second one doesn't feature She-Ra, I'll eat my hat.
Well, of course it would. But like the point being, like if they're probably willing to invest some of that money into rehab. But I don't think they'll do that twice. Even Amazon, mighty Amazon, is probably not going to greenlight a third one if the second one is another movie that costs $200 million and doesn't even cross 150 million at the box office.
Star Wars, The Mandalorian, and Grogu stayed at number 6, 4 weeks out. Michael stayed at 7. BTS World Tour debuted at 8. Got Furious. By the way,
heard pretty good things about that.
Do you know when the next Fast and the Furious movie is coming out? Not until 2028.
I got a trailer for the re-release of the original The Fast and the Furious.
So did we. Yeah.
I immediately was filled with the urge.
Let me tell you. Could we just talk about this for a second?
Throw myself off a building.
Can we? I'll join you. Can we talk about this for a second?
Sure.
Do you remember when we reviewed? I think it was Fast 11. I think it was.
It was 10.
It was 10. So no, I thought they were ending on 12.
It might have been 11. Okay, whatever the last one was. The one that ends with Dom Toretto driving his car down an exploding dam.
Do you know when that was?
Oh, it was post-COVID, but
It's 2021.
not much.
It was 2021.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about that review. A couple of things. One, 2021.
John Cena died.
2021, there were still COVID lockdowns going on. Not a lot,
Places.
but there were places.
California mostly.
2021 was a fun year because Disney was doing day and date with Cruella and did day and date with Black Widow. Also did day and date with, I believe, Raya and the Last Dragon.
That was would have been. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was that or Mulan.
No, Mulan was just straight to Disney Plus, and that was
right. Yeah. Right. Raya, they did try to release. Yeah.
The movies kind of opened up again with Godzilla versus Kong. That was, and I remember that because at least here in Florida, like that was the big reopening where there was no longer any COVID restrictions. Now, other places there was still lockdowns, but the line of demarcation where the earliest big openings were in Florida was in March, and it was Godzilla. It was the weekend of Godzilla versus Kong. Ask me why I know all that. So, but the other thing about what was going on that year, aside from all the day and dates I had already mentioned, was that Time Warner was also doing the day and date thing for all of their movies. So, for everything from like Wonder Woman to The Matrix, Transcended was all, and Dune was all day and date in the theater and on HBO Max. The only studio that was brave enough to put their movies back in the theaters where they belong, no fooling, they weren't putting out shit. I don't even think Peacock was a thing yet. Was fucking Universal. And
in fairness, there were Warner Brothers was about 50-50.
No, Warner Brothers released everything day and date. That was their whole
almost
thing.
Hang on, almost. There's one movie they didn't. Now remember this because I couldn't watch it day and date. Oh, dude, Chris Nolan never was going to let them go day
Oh
and
yeah,
day
it
with
was Tenet. It was Tenet, but that was 2020, wasn't it?
Wasn't that 21?
That was 2020. Because I remember in 2020, I went to the movies to go see Tenet and the New Mutants.
Yeah, the New Mutants was the last thing we saw before it really locked down. Yeah.
So anyway, my point. Well, no, the last thing we saw before things locked down was Onward. But my point is, with bringing up bringing up the Fast and the Furious, was we hadn't been on video for that long. We start that in June. That thing comes out shortly thereafter. It's one of the earliest ones we did in this format, because prior to that, we were audio only.
Yeah.
I also remember that video because we had to do it during the day, because I tried doing it at night and we kept losing power. Anyway, 2021. I was married at the time. I had children. Both children were in elementary school, as I recall. That was 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The world was different.
Very.
And
Sort of.
one could make the argument at the time in 2021, such as it was, that the Fast and the Furious franchise still had fucking cachet in the culture. By the time the sequel, but because it ends with a cliffhanger, the sequel
it ends with part 1.
Right. Comes out in 2028. It will have been 7 years, almost a fucking decade. We'll have had a second Trump administration, a new president by then. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? What? How did it take? They knew what they were doing when they did it.
We won't have a new president by then, but we're having elections that year. So.
Yeah. Sorry, my years are off. My point is the amount of time from 2021 to 2028 is a long time, Robert, and a lot happens, and has already happened.
That franchise decided to sit out the Biden administration and the second Trump administration because it just couldn't handle the culture war.
Good theory. My point is, how did they, when they were making the last one, did they not have this ready to go and a year or two later? Because even if you do the survive till 25 thing and you throw in the writer's strike and all of that, even if you're like waiting, like,
well, there were 2 strikes, but yes.
There was no reason this shouldn't have come out in 2023. There was certainly no reason why it shouldn't have come out in 2024.
Yeah.
By 2025, what the fuck are you waiting on now? The thing is 4 years old. 7? Why? I want a reasonable explanation, Robert Winfrey.
It's going to be real awkward when Jason Momoa shows up and has a gray beard.
In the same scene.
Yes.
All right. I just needed to point that out. Because I was like, hey, it's been a while since I had an old man moment while I was working the other day. Hey! Weren't we supposed to get another Fast and Furious movie?
They're waiting for the heat to die down on Gal Gadot.
And we can't release a Fast and Furious movie now. What's happening in Israel? So anyway, moving on. Let's see. The Breadwinner dropped from 8 to 11 in its third
As
week.
it should.
And Stop That Train debuted at number 10. Promise Sky debuted at 34. Oh Horizon 35. And that was the weekend that was worldwide. Still, only the Super Mario Brothers have eked past 1 billion. Michael is settling in at 934. Then we dropped 300 million.
Yeah, there's actually not a huge gap between Super Mario Galaxy and Michael. Mm-hmm. And then we jump, down a small cliffside till we reach Project Hail Mary.
Yep. And all the childless cat ladies have gone to see Devil Wears Prada too. You can't knock the hustle, Robert Winfrey. Women go to the movies, god damn it, and they all went and saw the Devil Wears Prada too, quietly, with class and dignity.
There is no plot.
I applaud the women of this world. They have dignity and class.
There's no chance they watched that movie with dignity and class.
They watched it wine drunk, but that's not the point here.
Then we get the Chinese movie of Pegasus 3, and those are all in the 600 millions. And then we drop down the cliff face again.
Let's see. Yeah, Star Wars and Star Wars: The Mandalorian Grogu is at 315. Obsession in the Back
It's not
Rooms.
gonna beat Hoppers.
Obsession in the Back Rooms are 8 and 9, and Wuthering Heights is still hanging in there at 10. So let's check in with some of our earlier movies that we have reviewed. Scream 7 topped out at 207. Scary Movie currently on the billboard at 172, number 16. Mortal Kombat hasn't beat the drama. I had to sit through Jason Teasley's lore dump for a movie that couldn't beat the drama. The drama.
You are the one who decided that was the movie we were going to review that week, Mark.
I am a slave to the schedule, Robert Winfrey.
I understand.
My point is, for years, I had to listen to all you bastages talk about this movie and who was going to be Johnny Cage and, and just arguing incessantly about Mortal Kombat. Couldn't beat the drama. That's how little anyone gives a shit about Mortal Kombat. Take that, fans.
Okay, Disney.
Thank you. Mortal Kombat 2, narrowly beating the Sheep Detectives. Let's see. Disclosure Day.
Detectives will probably beat it next week.
Disclosure Day is in the Throple with Send Help and Lee Cronin's The Mummy.
It will overtake them next week, but not sure about how much.
The Masters of the Universe just having a hard time. Currently between Reminders of Him at 27 and Detective Conan, Fallen Angel of the Highway. Anything else of note?
We can
Bride.
55.
Bride. All right.
The worst movie I've seen all year. Still The Bride.
I'm not going to do the low-hanging fruit of why do you hate women because I have Ronnie for that. I am going to ask you this. Am I not allowed to have my own opinions? And do you not know me as somebody who loves the weird, the strange, the odd?
I do. You
Okay.
are allowed to have your opinion.
Okay. Because I put out my TikTok on The Bride where I said it's not a perfect movie, it's not even a good movie, but it's such an odd movie, I can't hate it. And Robert Winfrey was like, I'm going to burn his house fucking down.
That is not what I said.
it was in the subtext.
Okay, look. When you said that on Facebook, I said I would rather watch Psycho Killer than Christian Bale drop to his knees screaming, "Putting on the Ritz."
Putting on the Ritz!
I would genuinely
Jonas
rather...
and I fucking tears. He didn't even know the reference, but he thought it was just a ridiculous thing. And then I told him, I'm like, Young Frankenstein. And I had to explain it to him. And then we watched it again. We stopped the movie to watch the putting on the Ritz scene again because he had to know. He now had to laugh at it in context.
I would genuinely rather rewatch Psycho Killer than The Bride.
May I do 50 words on The Bride?
Hang on. Let me finish defending myself from your accusation I threatened arson. So on Facebook, I said I would rather watch this other truly terrible movie again before ever rewatching The Bride. That was my statement. I stand by it. On your TikTok, I said, oh, we're going to wind up fighting about this on our year-end show. Okay. I accurately predict that when we get to that point, we will have the discussion because you weren't on the movie review. That's how that's my only point. I have not threatened you with arson. Yes, please, this is your show as much as mine. Do your 50 words on The Bride.
Imagine if Maggie Gyllenhaal were a grad film student, but also she'd gotten her bachelor's degree in feminist studies.
So imagine Maggie Gyllenhaal. Got it?
Yep. But I repeat myself redundantly. So anyway, so here's Maggie Gyllenhaal. Poor Maggie Gyllenhaal. Maggie Gyllenhaal out there in her pink dress and her curly blonde hair and her lolly.
She does not have blonde hair.
That's your takeaway from that description.
Keep going.
Anyway,
I must correct the record on occasion.
Dear Maggie Gyllenhaal, she has these liberal feminist ideas that are unchallenged by anybody because nobody wants to tell this woman what for. She's a Hollywood actress after all.
Because
No.
no one wants to be in a room long enough with her to have a conversation.
Tomato, tomato. So listen. So
They're not the same thing.
and so no one's telling this woman no. And she has all of these ideas, and it's her first time directing.
I
And
mean, I
this
tried to tell her no, but she wouldn't stop.
And so this movie just screams film student, student film. Okay, this is like when you are in college, and I have been there because I have not been to film school, but I have taken film classes, both production and interpretation. So I have seen people unabashedly pour their all into an idea, and they don't yet know self-restraint, and no one's telling them no because this is a collegiate affair and they want you to express yourself. And that, I think, informs a lot of what The Bride is. Now, it's tonally all over the fucking place. Christian Bale is doing God's work with that role, and Jesse Buckley.
There is no way Maggie Gyllenhaal actually directed Christian Bale. There is no way, having seen the movie.
She took whatever performance he gave. And him being Christian Bale was like, I saw Denzel Washington in Training Day, and what that man did with the setting, I'm gonna do the same because I'm Christian Bale and I can, and I don't need to get any further than that. Jesse Buckley, this woman who nominated or won, I don't remember which one.
She won an Oscar.
Yeah, she's clearly a capable woman. Again, it's just told be unfettered insane. And she is, and she's doing the best job she can with it. It's a weird fucking movie done by somebody who didn't have any restraint or editorial oversight or an adult mature emotion. And I kind of like that. For the same reason I defended Such That I Did, it's in the same ballpark. For the same reason I defended last year's Snow White. Everybody else got up in arms about it. You said I was, being intellectually dishonest, and I'll never forgive you for it. Now,
for the record, I apologize for that.
As bad as Snow White was, I was having a good time with it because of how stupid it was. Kind of the same thing here. I had a good time with The Bride because it's so unhinged.
You also didn't have to pay money for it.
Fair. I do have to pay for a subscription to HBO Max, though.
Sure, but your only cost was time. I lost time and money.
My son, who is as critical as you are these days, both agreed with the point that it's not a good movie, but it is a fun and interesting movie. And both of us had a grand old time watching this disaster piece.
Look, if you want to tell me that it is the best movie of the last year suited for Mystery Science Theater 3000 style ragging, I won't disagree with you.
That's the thing. It's I can point to a million different things in this movie that A, made no sense, B, were hilarious. Unintentionally fucking hilarious.
And my only
By the way,
thought...
Jonas thought a much better movie would have been just focusing on the detectives. He was like, I want to see a separate movie with just them.
Show him the Warren Beatty and I'm blanking on her name.
Bulworth?
No.
Tracy?
No. Back one more.
I don't have time to look this
Bonnie
up.
and Clyde. I'm trying to remember the actors.
Oh, yeah. I got to show him Bonnie and Clyde one of these days.
I think it's Faye Dunaway.
Yeah.
Don't quote me.
Anyway.
Hang on, no. Show him that.
Mm-hmm.
And then go, okay, now remember how you said you wanted to see just a separate movie about the detectives in The Bride? And you go, yes, father, because he calls you father. Mm-hmm. Then show him the Netflix movie The Highwaymen, starring Kevin Costner and Woody Allen, about the people who killed Bonnie and Clyde.
Fair enough. Anyway, I get why people... I get why the angry guys on the internet bragged on it. I don't have their predilections. I just don't. I don't have their hangups either. So, for me, I was entertained, but I was entertained in the same way I get entertained by watching B movies drive-in movies, something weird movies,
You were
art
entertained the
house
same
movies.
way you go scrolling through TikTok for people who can't sing exuberantly doing covers of songs.
Sure. Anyway, next week is Toy Story 5. That'll be the number one movie of the weekend. I believe that's tracking well, both critically and
Almost,
box
sir.
office.
Look, I'm gonna have to. I resisted the urge to fight some people about Toy Story 5 the other day because a lot of the early reviews are very, very positive. So much so that some people I know are saying, Toy Story 4 wasn't a giant flaming pile of garbage, and I am stuck going, yes, it was.
Yeah, we will
It
revisit that
was.
next
I don't
week.
care how. I don't care how good Toy Story 5 is. I hope it's great. I really do. It is not going to be so good that I retroactively go, Toy Story 4 was not every bad thing I said about it.
I'm going to pull the transcripts. Hopefully they all load from our Long Road to Ruin. A very well-received Long Road to Ruin, if I remember correctly, on Toy Story 1 through 3.
Well, that's a lot of you and Sean just like unpacking yourselves.
The predictions I made about the falling apart of my marriage are positively prescient. But yeah, funny story about that. So I'm talking about Jesse, and I'm talking about the whole thing about like putting your toys away, and and sometimes even if you love something, you have to set it free. And at the time, I wasn't necessarily talking about myself and Melissa, but then one of Melissa's friends calls me because she thinks that we're getting a divorce because of what I said. Had I only known a few years later that was the case, but I always thought that story was funny.
That is somewhat funny.
Self-fucking fulfilling prophecy is what it was. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
are you from the future?
I'm going to pull all the tape on that, and we'll discuss it at the top of the show on Toy Story. But that's going to be the number one movie of next weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I'm predicting a 60% drop for Disclosure Day.
Probably about right.
I don't think it'll go as far as 70, but I'm going to say 60. It's about right, give or take.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
And then we end the month with Supergirl, which is tracking to bomb hard.
It and Master of the Universe are just going to be hanging out together.
Yeah. And then Clayface comes out later this year for some ungodknown reason.
That will probably be fine. Not great, but it's not going to have the giant budget. It's not going to have the.
Where are we on the Warner Brothers sale? Are they just going through all the governmental stuff at this point?
I think we're just waiting for like full regulatory sign off at this point.
Okay. At some point, the good people, the godly people, the people doing God's work at Paramount Sundance will fire James. Huh?
Skydance. Paramount Skydance, not Sundance.
Sorry, it's Paramount Skydance. We'll do the world a favor. And I'm sorry, Alexis, I know this hurts your heart. I know this is me coming down on your God, such as you believe in one. But fire James Gunn. He has fucked this up to a fare thee well. And I don't think there's any. And at this point.
But he's already filming the Superman sequel.
And that should be it's his curtain call. Let him finish out Superman and be done with this.
I appreciate that James Gunn realizes what's about to happen to him, and he is desperately trying to do as much stuff as he can between now and then. So when they call him into the office, and he walks in, and there's the gun behind his ear, you can go, but wait, I'm not done yet. Look, I'm in the middle of this, and this one, he's setting up his arguments, and I can respect it. He is not a complete moron. He's not going to be pulled into he's not going to walk into that particular execution chamber unknowing. He's going to do his darndest. But yeah, when Superman underperformed, Supergirl is going to not do well. Clayface is going to be fine, but it's going to be a slightly smaller budget horror movie about a Batman villain. Like you're going to find like the niche market for that, but that's not going to save your grand vision for the DC extended universe.
Fire James Gunn. Let's get him through the next Superman movie that comes out next year, and then he's gone. We're done with this. And then put DC on film away for a while. Put it in the same fucking drawer as Star Wars. Lock it, swallow the key. Shit the key out. When you do that, several years later, you can open both again and start small. Start with something reasonable. You have to kind of do what you're doing with He-Man right now, which is you have to rehabilitate these two products. DC on film is fucked. It just is. I know there's people who are going to hear this at a later date. You're like, why do you hate? What are you, one of the Snyder Bros?
Are
It is
we
amazing.
advocating for the return of the Snyderverse here,
It
people?
is
We're not.
amazing. I haven't collectively, individually, sure, I've liked some stuff, but I haven't collectively liked anything that Warner Brothers has put out on film with real people, not cartoons, a DC product since The Dark Knight. How fucking long ago that was. I was in a different marriage back then. No, wait, I was
That's
dating
20
Melissa.
years, give or take.
Yeah, I was. I correct myself because I thought I was with wife number one. No, I was dating Melissa at the time. Want to know how I remember that? Because she hid in my armpit through the entirety of that movie. That's
As
how long
someone
ago it was, though. It was 2008.
As someone who did enjoy The Dark Knight Rises personally, but also as someone who famously did not like the Batman,
He went and made a sandwich while I gushed.
I was not going to be helpful contributing to what you and Andrew were doing, and I knew it. So
He fucked off.
look, if we were on camera the same way, I'd read a book. I'd have read a book. Oh, right. I should have read a book. Is what I should have done. I thought the performance art was funnier of me being off camera.
I'll never forgive you.
Why? What was I going to contribute?
Anyway, yeah,
I contributed to the review. I didn't want to be part of the gushing.
Yeah. So, like I said, the last time they put out the most competent thing they could put out was The Dark Knight. That's how long ago this has been. And again, there have been...
hang on. You and I both are generally positive on Man of Steel.
That's what I'm saying. There's ups and there's downs here, but can you name a single movie that has come out since The Dark Knight that's better than The Dark Knight on DC on film? No, you can't. I'll answer for you.
No, that's...
I stand corrected. Blue Beetle. Good night, everybody. I like it when I say something and Robert has to reboot.
I was waiting for your internet to catch back up. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. Like, I agree with you that there have been individual bright spots, but like, I don't think you can name a 2-film stretch.
No.
That just isn't a thing.
If someone were to prosecute the both of us and look through the evidence of all of our reviews of DC, there were positive things I said. There were movies that I kind of liked, but a lot of it was like, this was good, this was not so good, and that was the same movie. There were things I said in defense of a movie because I think people were being ridiculous about it.
Yeah.
We famously went to bat over Man of Steel with Gavin about it, but they haven't made a better movie than The Dark Knight since The Dark Knight. And some might argue, well, The Dark Knight's exceptional. Maybe. But you're telling me nobody in Hollywood in a 20-year period could have made a better movie than that one? Get the fuck out of here. So
well, you're going to get all the people who love the Batman mad at you for saying that, but
again, I don't want to go down this road any further, but I will. Here's what I'll say: that I stood up and fucking cheered at the Batman. To your point, and if anything, that's an outlier, and it's not part of the. And it's not part of whatever the grand plan they have for the DCU is. It was one of these things where we're trying to make hay out of some leftover pieces of a Batman sequel. That was
okay, no. I can tell you. I can actually tell you the last DC on film movie that was universally pretty much praised.
Mm-hmm.
It's freaking Joker.
But again, another outlier and not one that's in the DCEU. It was one of those it was like their version of Black Label.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that, but
that's the same problem with the Batman.
That remains. You know what?
Hang on. The movies we're talking about: Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman 2, Flash, Black Adam, Blue Beetle, Justice League 4-hour cut. Those are the movies we're talking about here. So anyway, the whole point of us discussing this was they got to put fucking DC to bed. for a while. Like, let James Gunn finish off the second Superman movie and be done with this for a while and stop doing it. It's the only way you're gonna salvage this fucking this IP at this point. And that's even if it is salvageable, which I'm starting to wonder. I joked with you when you got on the call tonight. I think we were watching the demise of film as a whole. And I'm looking at audiences, and I'm looking at what my kids like, and I'm going to sum it up this way, and then I'll give you the final word, and that word has to be 10 words long. And then we're done. We're going to move on. My son argued with me today for a good 10, 15 minutes that there was no point to Spider-Man. Like, he didn't see the attraction. He's a 12-year-old boy.
Do you mean like the character concept or the movie in particular?
The character concept. Here's the thing. I don't think he's alone in thinking that.
He's probably not, but wow.
But here's what he's saying, because then I had to kind of say it for him because he's just too dismissive. Spider-Man comes out at a time where there's not a lot of whole things like Spider-Man out there. So Spider-Man, in the crowd that it's aimed for, gets a big crowd, right? Spider-Man pulled through the years just gets more and more people because now it's familiar and people like it, yada, yada, yada. By the time you're a 12-year-old boy in 2026, there's so many things like Spider-Man out there. Spider-Man isn't special anymore. That's the point. That's the point he's pointing out, is that I don't need Spider-Man. I don't need something that speaks to me the way that Spider-Man spoke to my dad, because I have all these other things that speak to me. And he articulated, I think, something that a lot of kids are probably saying, but they're saying it like beep, bark, boop, bark, or TikTok.
It helps that you raised an articulate and critical son.
I fucking tried, man.
So my last word on like the death of film. When Doomsday bombs. And I say that only because like they also spent, we did the math on this when they were talking about
the gross national product of Uganda.
Probably more. Like, I mean, we did the math on that. Like when we talked about, okay, they're spending this just on the cast. They're going to spend this on production. They're spending like $400 million on that thing before marketing. That movie is going to need to make like $2 billion to be really profitable. When your underlying assumption for profitability is this has to be like the fourth biggest movie of all time.
You are betting on a lot of fanboys. That's what they're doing. You're like, hey, 50-year-olds, do you remember those Fox X-Men movies you loved? Well, here they are.
Yep.
But also,
hey, here's the Fox Fantastic Four.
But here's the Fantastic Four that came out last year that nobody saw.
Here's the other Fantastic Four.
And
here's the Thunderbolts.
And here's those Marvel movies that you liked 6 years ago.
Longer than that.
Yeah. Anyway, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
81% on the tomato meter for all critics. Top critics, 78%. Verified audience is 72. All audiences dropped to 61.
Can I tell you something? There's a weird experiment you can do with Steven Spielberg movies. Show them to an audience, but don't tell them who directed it.
I think if we ever do a Spielberg director focus, I want to do Close Encounters, E.T., and AI.
If we do a Spielberg director focus, like, we can't limit it that way. It's going to be so we have to plan out you're going to need a spreadsheet for the logistics of our Spielberg review.
First of all, we've done quite a few of them already.
I know, like we don't have to. There's a bunch we don't need to repeat. But hang on, my point here is like, because when we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, there's a thought experiment that went around because everybody's like, this movie sucks. Show the same movie to those people, but at the end, the only thing you change is instead of directed by Steven Spielberg, put directed by Stanley Kubrick,
Right.
and watch how they change.
Yeah.
You could change not a single frame of this movie. At the end, don't put directed by Steven Spielberg, put directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Exact same movie, literally. Put that name at the end of it. This has a 12 from the critics. There are so many people giving Spielberg grace because he's Spielberg.
A humanistic variation on one of Steven Spielberg's most revisited themes, Disclosure Day's breathless pursuit of optimism in an age of conspiracy gets its biggest boost from career highlight work by Emily Blunt.
If you think this is the best work Emily Blunt has ever done, you've been hitting the head too much.
You haven't seen anything else by the only thing you've seen by Emily Blunt is Jungle Cruise. All right. Joshua Polanski of The Rapidian.
Agreeing with us.
Disclosure Day is a boomer's hopeful, naive dream in the power of moving image-based media.
Yeah.
My mortal enemy, Michael Medved, of The Michael Medved Show. I haven't done that
Whose
one.
grave you will pee on.
No, he's going to outlive me. Oh, you all will. A captivating sci-fi
Don't
thriller.
tell me that.
A captivating sci-fi thriller packed with expertly choreographed action, intriguing mysteries, and a standout performance by God, with the stand. What is everyone is like? Does everyone get like a fucking dollar for if they just say a standout performance by Emily Blunt?
There again, there's a bunch of people who know Emily Blunt is a good actress, therefore going, she must be doing a good job. Also, what about the mysteries were intriguing here?
The future ex-Mrs. Robert Winfrey, Aisha Harris, a Pop Culture Happy Hour NPR podcast.
If she works at NPR, I ain't marrying her.
For all my cynicism, that's your takeaway. For all my cynicism and my feelings that this is a little too sweet and a little too mushy, I had a really good time. Good for you, ladies.
You slept through the middle of this.
Let's see. Nick Johnson of Vanyaland. An old man hopes for his grandchildren when he's not around. It's a prayer that they might glean the truth, learn from his generation's mistakes, and make a more just and honest future in communion with wondrous forces beyond his imagination. All right.
You've described the movie. You have not reviewed the movie.
I would tell you that a lot of these people don't know the difference.
That is true.
Chuck Bowens of Style Weekly, Richmond, Virginia. Disclosure Day is among the dumbest movies I've seen in years. Supernaturally dumb, debased dumb, filmmaker with carte blanche dumb.
There is so much stuff in this movie that happens because plot. It's shocking.
Steven Spielberg's third wife, Susan Granger of SSG Syndicate.
That's not true.
Steven Spielberg is not just a good storyteller, he's a great storyteller. Thanks, Susan.
The number of people just committing hagiography here for Steven Spielberg. Like, why are you carrying water for this guy? I love his movies too, be honest.
Let's see. The future ex-Mrs. Robert Winfrey, Sarah Vincent of Sarah G. Vincent Views. If you like Spielberg's alien shtick, you will love it.
No, I do like Spielberg's other alien movies, and I don't like this one.
But he fails to convey the sense of wonder that he feels about the prospect of extraterrestrial existence, and there are quite a few links missing in this chain.
What? Partially cogent. Oh no, we're agreeing with Doug Walker. That always feels dirty.
Internet pest, Doug Walker.
Sex pest, Doug Walker.
Internet sex. I wasn't sure, and I didn't want you to correct me. Internet sex pest, Doug Walker. Like a combination of Spielberg's past alien projects, all that's missing is the wonder.
A little bit, yeah. Something's got lost in translation there.
Rachel Wagner of Rachel Reviews YouTube had mixed feelings on this effort from Spielberg. Feels surprisingly small with a muddled message. Yeah, we mostly agreed with that.
In fairness, the message is not super hard to discern.
Black Robert Winfrey.
You finally get to dust off that chestnut.
Black Robert Winfrey returns to the podcast. National Review. Disclosure Day.
For the record, Armand White is his government name.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Armand White.
You literally just said that like there's a guy who writes under the pen name of Black Robert Winfrey.
God, I hope he changes his name to that. Um, Disclosure Day descends through dramatic rather than comic intervals into chase movie set pieces, yet it lacks an action movie sense of fun.
Boy, the action in this is not very engaging.
I like the train sequence.
That's the closest one you get to it. Hey, he almost drives off a cliff at one point and then doesn't. Isn't that exciting?
Rick Bentley of KGET TV, C+. So much of Disclosure Day is smoke and mirrors.
That's a bad pull from your review, I'm going to assume.
Jody Sirkin of Jordy Reviews It. This film goes beyond thrilling adventures for something much more profound about connection and understanding. The fuck you talking about, lady?
What? No.
The most important, outside of Lola Lamchop's future ex-Mrs. Robert Winfrey, Carla Hay of Culture Mix.
How did we get to that point?
Disclosure Day recycles some themes that are in other Steven Spielberg directed films about outer space phenomena. Although the movie often substitutes character development with chase scenes, it's suspenseful enough if you don't expect a masterpiece. It's good if you lower the bar.
I was not expecting a masterpiece. I was expecting something more competent. This is Spielberg.
Oh my God. Jeffrey Harris of 401mania.com. Spielberg proves he's still capable of constructing some exceptionally suspenseful and awe-inspiring sequences, especially in the latter half.
You get the train sequence. That's it. That's the only thing I'll give you as being interesting here. Like, what else about any of this are you gonna remember?
Yeah. Karen Gordon of Original Sin, spelled with a C, Dirk. Spielberg gives us a vision of disclosure in a movie that blends action with belief that we're not alone.
You wrote the back, like that's the inner jacket plot synopsis on a book.
Gene Kaplan of Kaplan vs. Kaplan. Disclosure Day is an electrifying movie-going experience that only Steven Spielberg can deliver. Oh, get the fuck out of here, lady.
This could have been made by anyone.
Amy Nicholson, Los Angeles Times. Decades after Spielberg unveiled his signature shot, a face amazed at wonders we can't see, he seems wearied by his awareness that today's moment of revelation would look like a person staring down at their phone.
You know what? There's some truth to that sentiment she just shared. Like that is a guy who does most of his work by getting people to look up and imagine. And your big finale is everyone looking down at a small screen.
I'm looking for somebody specific, but I don't want to do this too much longer. So,
all right.
Here he is.
Oh yes.
Moonrock, cosplaying as a human. Travis Hobson of Punch Drunk Critics. Disclosure Day, while far from perfect, is another one of those movies that is uniquely Spielberg, and we need him now more than ever. Hey, you know who never shows up anymore? Fat guy at the movies.
I think we got rid of him.
Well, then my new target is Travis Hobson.
You should look up Kevin Carr and see if he's still doing this or if something happened to him, because we may have gotten rid of him. We may have bullied him off the internet.
It's in a fucking psychiatric unit somewhere. Like, fat guy and a Mormon. Fat guy and a Mormon. All right. Speaking of reducing, that's our review of Disclosure Day. This Thursday, I will be reviewing The Newsroom Seasons 2 and 3. And if you're wondering why 2 seasons? Because the third season isn't really a season. It's basically the second. It's the second half of the second season. It just ties up all the loose ends. They did the same thing with like Treme, where they just did a truncated season. So it's only 6 episodes, but it just kind of ties up all the loose ends of the newsroom. So I didn't want to do a separate show for
except
that.
the lingering mystery of why it sucks.
A week. Are we doing anything Sunday? No, I have Father's Day. I promised my mother I wouldn't do stuff like this on days I'm seeing them. I gotta pee. So next week, Toy Story, and then the other part of our Pride Month, we're doing a Luca Guadagnino feature, After the Hunt, Queer, and I Am Love. I Am Love, Robert Winfrey.
How are you? Well, while Mark is off expelling urine, I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. WWE SmackDown on Fridays, which has not been a good show for a while now, and this last week was no exception. I know it was not good because even the normal people who express their aggravation with me when I am critical weren't defending it. And I appreciate those people as long as their opinions are expressed coherently and intelligently, because I don't mind understanding the opposite point of view. When I say that was a bad show and no one comes out and says you're full of crap, I know it was bad. I had no UFC event Saturday because on Sunday was UFC Freedom 250. My full report is in the MMA Zone of 411mania.com. It was only 7 fights long. The whole event still took forever, but it was maybe the last time we will ever see the UFC do something interesting with pageantry, pomp, circumstance, and spectacle. Because they are allergic to any and all of those things when left to their own devices. So, yeah, if you want a full in-depth breakdown, as well as me slowly losing my mind due to sleep deprivation, listen to the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, which went live a little bit after that event wrapped, a couple of hours. I did have a couple of things to do before I could do that. But where I talk about the results and I talk about the production, some of the stuff I liked, some of the stuff I didn't. And I'm very sleep deprived by the end of that show because I've been awake for like 20 hours by that point. And I get a little loopy. So listen to that if you want.
How you got to Memphis?
So listen to any and all of that. Again, you can find my full report in the MMA Zone of 411mania.com. Justin Gagey finally climbs the mountain. Cyril Gahn deflates Alex Pereira's attempt to become a 3-weight world champion in MMA. And a lot of expected stuff outside of the main event, basically. So go give any of that. Again, you can read my report. You can listen to my breakdowns in the immediate aftermath. And this coming Saturday will be UFC Fight Night 279. We're back in the warehouse, going from pomp, pageantry, circumstance, and spectacle to the warehouse. Big shock. Where we will have a normal event headlined by a decent fight, actually. Manel Kape versus Kyoji Horiguchi. There's not a lot of supporting cast on that, but there's some. So go give, again, I have a full preview on the podcast as well, sort of. I've been going for like 2 hours when I got to the part where I was going to have to preview the upcoming card, and I just had to go through it quickly.
It's like, that guy's going to punch the other guy. That guy's going to punch the other guy. That guy's going to kick the other guy, and that guy's going to bite his arm.
Well, somewhat ironically, there is a fighter on the card who won a fight by disqualification because his opponent bit him in the UFC.
Nice.
It's Andre Lima. He then had the teeth marks on his arm turned into a tattoo.
Classy.
Well, he got bonused for being bit because Dana White felt bad for him. So he decided to commemorate that by inking forever on the inside of his bicep where that guy bit him. The MMA is
full of barbarians.
It defies conventional description. So,
have you babbled about SmackDown yet?
I already said it's just not a good show.
Okay, great.
And I know it's not a good show because even the defenders weren't arguing with me last week.
Good.
I have submitted something for a more like a opinion essay piece for 4-1 to potentially put up. So check that. It would be in the MMA Zone. If they choose not to publish it, I'm going to just word vomit it onto my Facebook page because I'm kind of proud of what I wrote, which I don't feel very often.
And I'm sure it's excellent. All right, folks. Well, thank you.
Condescending.
Thank you for joining us here on damn you. I was going to make a joke about Neil deGrasse Tyson, but I actually don't know what show he ever did. So it was a botched joke. And I never botch a joke. Be well, be safe, and behave.